So Vincent Price is the voice of Phantom Manor.
Indeed, he is.
What other actor or famous person would you like to see being the new Haunted Mansion voice?
Well, unfortunately, they're all dead. But I would have loved to have had Christopher Lee.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
Wouldn't that be great? I'm sure there's other ones out there. Like, here's the thing: anyone I can think of is just like an established voice actor, like Diedrich Bader or something like that, or who's another good example? Kevin Conroy. Oh, no, that wouldn't work.
Batman.
That's the thing. I'd be too busy thinking about Batman. Be like, wow, Wayne Manor got haunted.
I have the best one.
Go on.
Bette Midler as Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus.
Finally. A ride for the gays.
Welcome to Ride Rehab.
Welcome, foolish mortals. You're listening to Ride Rehab on WDWNT.com. And now, here are your hosts, Tyler Mann and Thomas Kiernan. Now, as they say, look alive, and we'll begin the show.
Welcome to the only Disney podcast that's haunted, Ride Rehab. The WDWNT show of ridiculously reskinning rides, attractions, and areas in the Walt Disney World. I'm Thomas Cthulhu is Coming, Kiernan.
And I'm a hot werewolf, Tyler. And every episode we put ourselves into the shoes of Imagineers to find out what we would do with infinite time and money.
That's right, Tyler. And on this spooky episode, we'll be talking all things spooky on this, our Halloween Spooktacular.
That's right, Thomas. We'll be talking spooky rides and attractions, imagineering spoopy area overlays, and then coming up with a few of our own ideas.
That's right. And on this episode, we're recording from the scariest place on Earth, the Walt Disney Executive Offices.
Oh my god. It's like a graveyard in here.
Yeah, there's no one here. By the way, the Vincent Price voice, it's gonna come and go. Whenever I feel like using it, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be possessed by the ghost of Vincent Price every now and again.
I was gonna do that voice, the guy who's like, yes, master, but I'm not like, you know, I think I just nailed it.
Oh, I was gonna say spooky things at Walt Disney and to a lesser extent Universal.
Yeah, we'll talk about other parks. We are not bound by doing just Walt Disney World. I mean, we are on WDWNT, but we certainly have talked about Universal in the past. I figured we'd talk about Canada's Wonderland at some point.
Oh yeah, I guess we can also talk about Canada's Wonderland.
We'd have to fly all the way back here to Toronto since we're
here to Toronto?
Oh, fuck. I ruined the premise. Whatever. Yeah, we're going to talk about all things spooky. We don't have a particular ride, attraction, or area, but we are certainly, like I said in the opening, we're certainly going to talk about our own areas, and we'll get to that at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. So I said to our staff at WDWNT, I'm like, what's a spooky ride? And they're like, well, if you're talking about like rides that have scary bits in them, and then they listed every ride possible, and I'm like, yeah, that's about right. No, I meant like rides that are outwardly meant to be like horror themed, like Tower of Terror is definitely spooky, and Haunted Mansion is definitely spooky.
And that's it.
I was about to say like a third one as a joke.
Nope.
And It's a Small World is definitely spooky.
I was going to say, and the Carousel of Progress.
I was going to say Carousel of Progress.
It's scary to see all those old-timey views. No.
Oh my god, that's what they thought VR was going to be.
Yeah. No. But yes, Walt Disney World is, I guess, Snow White's Scary Adventure as well.
But, in Disneyland.
But yes, there are very few rides at Disney that actually are, you know, scary. Well, I don't mean thrilling. Thrilling is different than scary. Like Expedition Everest, I guess it has a monster in it, but it's more thrilling than it is scary or frightening or spooky.
It's not like a bunch of it's not like there's a jump scare or anything.
Those of you listening at home, the drinking game for this episode is count the number of drink every time we say spooky.
Okay. We got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's start with spooky things that are already in the park and spooky things gone by. We both love Haunted Mansion. I don't think we haven't done an episode all about Haunted Mansion.
We haven't done an episode all about Haunted Mansion.
Because it's perfect.
It's not. I disagree.
Sorry,
disagree
right.
strongly.
It's a very good ride,
strongly.
But it is not a perfect ride.
No,
definitely.
it. Well, let's start there then. The Haunted Mansion is not a perfect ride. We love it because we love the atmosphere and we love the spookiness of it because that's our thing. and I love the dark humor of it, but a lot of it really needs updating. And that's the weakest part of it, is that especially with the new effects that have come in, you can see the really strong difference between the new effects and the old effects.
Yes.
And how what's the word I'm looking for?
The contrast.
The contrast between the methods of execution. And a lot of the effects still hold up and are still, neat and impressive, but they're just not as good as we can make them. We'll jump over to Paris, where we have Phantom Manor, which is effectively just Haunted Mansion, but with modern effects. Yeah,
because they completely updated it.
Yeah. One, it has Vincent Price, which immediately bumped. Actually, he was pretty old when they recorded it, and he doesn't sound like... Well, you know what? Vincent Price is always good. He always elevates things that he's in.
No, I know what you mean.
But I don't think
he doesn't have that very creepy, mysterious, like the old timey.
He's not young Vincent Price.
Goodness gracious! He sounds like Welcome to Phantom Manor.
Welcome to Phantom Manor.
This is Phantom Manor.
And that might be attributed to the fact that he's basically a stage actor, and so him sitting down and reading lines is very different for him. No, but he did the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Maybe he was just old.
He's just old.
He was just old.
I'm not going to say that Haunted Mansion in Florida and California, they don't have stories. There is this overarching story in general, which is retirement home for ghosts. Disney built this house, and they're like, we're collecting the ghosts.
Can I say that for a second? That a lot of rides, and especially a lot of new ones that are coming out, have one story that you go through, and it's not a sort of, I almost want to call it like an open world, where the story is not necessarily a strict linear progression of events.
Yes.
It is an overarching thematic thing, which is really good, because then the guests can write their own story and form their own personal connections, as opposed to being railroaded into experiencing just some random story.
Like Phantom Manor, which is specifically about this bride being tortured by this phantom.
Sure.
That's why it's called Phantom Manor.
I
this laughing giant skeleton.
Oh, I love that animatronic.
Vincent Price.
I want to see that live. That looks great.
Haunted Mansion is sort of this mishmash of various things happening. There is a bride, but it's not necessarily about her. Like, the first thing that happens is, look at this stretching room. Here are some people. Well, let's just move on.
Yeah.
But in the other one, it's here are some people that, like, here's the bride in all these perilous situations because this phantom is trying to, like, torture her.
Do they like sit you down at the Phantom Manor and hit you over the head with the story, or is the story just there for set dressing?
The first thing that happens when you walk in is Vincent Price goes, "Hey, check out this lady. Isn't she interesting? Come on in, I'll tell you some more."
Okay.
And then he says, "Beauty used to live in this house, and Beauty lives here still," and all that stuff. It's a little bit more story based. I don't mind that. I like it.
No. It's all right, and I think in terms of trying to do Haunted Mansion again but different, it works. And of course, in Paris, they is the birthplace of the Phantom of the Opera, and so I think there's a clear influence of that on Phantom Manor. But like the book, not not any other adaptation of it.
I find that it's because there are two people worked on it, two Imagineers, one who wanted to make things horribly scary and one who wanted to do like sight gags.
Yes.
And they compromised in a lot of different ways.
Can I just say, I think that would have worked better than, or I think it has worked better than a straight up comedy one or a straight up spooky one would be.
Yes.
I think that the combination of the two gives the ride more longevity. A scary one, I think the scary effects would be outdated very quickly, or it would be overly reliant on jump scares, everyone's favorite. Whereas with the comedy, it has something else to hold it up, and on repeat ride-throughs, you catch all the little gags that you might not catch the first time around.
Yeah.
And so I think by compromise, though this is one of the few times that compromise has led to it. That's not true, but by compromising it, it's helped it a lot. and it makes it more enjoyable. I don't know. When you go through a spook house in regular, let's say you go to like a fairground haunted house that they've set up. It's literally just a plastic Dracula or something that jumps out at you and jump scares you. And then when you're done, you're like, wow, that was kind of spooky, I guess. I mostly just got jumped at. But Haunted Mansion, it's more about the atmosphere. And
exactly.
I think that's what sells it. And the fact that when you look at it, especially from the outside, it literally just looks like a house is very helpful. In Gothic stories, things that are inanimate or objects, they seem to come to life or give the appearance of a life that we don't have. So that way it can illustrate some points about either the character's mental state or the sort of unsettling nature of the house. For example, the Haunted Mansion is bigger on the inside. And that's a trait of Gothic literature, is that a seemingly innocuous inherited family home or something will have subterranean tunnels that extend the house and continue this discovery or descent into the dark story. And we kind of get that with Haunted Mansion, which is lovely. But that's all I really have to say about that.
Well, then let me ask this.
Yes.
How would you... We said that it's not perfect, so first question, how would you make it perfect? And second, how would you ridiculously reskin it?
To start off, I would replace a lot of the older Pepper's Ghost effects. Not necessarily with a different effect, but with a better Pepper's Ghost effect. For example, the dancing ghosts, I would give them more articulate animatronics.
Yes, I'm totally on board with you.
Yes.
I think the Pepper's Ghost effect still works and still stands out, but a lot of it just feels like static figures.
Yes.
And I would love to see one like the Johnny Depp pirate one in Shanghai.
Yes.
Which is a Pepper's Ghost effect. It starts off as that skeleton, and then it changes by using a cool Pepper's Ghost. And that would be so wicked to see.
Yes.
I apologize for using the term wicked. I'm not 12.
No one mourns the wicked.
Got her. I would love to see something more extravagant, or something like reaching towards your car and then just disappear or something.
That would be really cool. That might scare kids too much. And I think that's the other thing. Well, actually, we'll get into that later. But I was going to talk about how I think Disney's afraid, ironically, to invest in scarier things. I would also improve some of the projections on the various faces and such. I particularly have this problem with the bride, where her body's a static figure, and she has a projection, and she makes the axe appear, and there's just something about it that just doesn't look right.
Because, like, the body should, like... It should sort of, what's it called? It should have some kind of...
like a physical movement
like a hip,
yeah.
like a hip sway, or like an arm coming up, but instead it just looks like...
What's even better is you could have... You know how we're going to keep going back to Phantom Manor, because I think Phantom Manor is objectively the best version of Haunted Mansion, basically. I know it's different.
Yes.
I know it's not the same, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the best version of all the effects they've done. And the story's different, and so we can't completely compare the two. Their bride, they've sleeked down her design, where she's just like a glowing pair of eyes and the heart in the distance. Maybe they should do something like that with that bride, where she's in the distance, and you just see this lone figure silhouetted against bright lights. Or you could even make just a figure that rotates and is already holding the axe, and it's like, till death do us, and as it turns around, you see her. And I guess you would be constantly rotating then. That might look a little silly.
That's a problem, because it is one of these omni-movers that you have to have a scene. It can only repeat for like maybe 3 seconds at a time, because then you'll see it coming.
Yes.
Or you'll have to turn the car just at the right moment.
Yes.
Like the hand passing over the clock.
Yes.
You have to pass by that at the right moment for the effect to work perfectly. Otherwise, you'll just see like, wait, what was that? Oh.
Yeah.
Was that a hand?
You'll see
there was a hand.
You'll see it at the last second, or you'll see it. Whoever's in the doom buggy before you will see it better than you will, or something like that. Yes. A lot of the effects are very timing based.
Yeah.
Which is why impressive animatronics like the Vincent Price laughing skeleton are great, because he just laughs forever, and you just get to see a really cool animatronic. The hitchhiking ghosts are okay.
Really? The video screen?
The video...
That's kind of hard to see?
It's kind of hard to see. It doesn't always line up, but it's fine. I don't have any complaints about it. Certainly it's different than the original effect, which was just a Pepper's Ghost effect, but with a reflection, kind of. It would project it had to be synced up, didn't always work. Anyways, the point is this one is fine, and it usually works. And I don't have a problem with it. The hitchhiking ghost animatronics themselves are fine. The graveyard scene, I would take the head poppy things out.
Oh, I hate them so much.
I know they're supposed to be like, ooh, jump scares, but they're the worst.
We don't need jump scares. The whole ride isn't jump scares anyways, and why would the ghosts be scaring you in the graveyard?
When you're dead.
When you're supposed to be like, apparently part of that story where you are fall out of the window and you die, and now you're enjoying the party. Why would the ghost jump out and scare you?
And that's...
My problem with that whole area is it's just you can see that there are scrims blocking you just to give it that hazy effect. But half the time when we've ridden it, it's either the light is just too powerful that you can see the scrim, or it's just it's so dark and hazy that I can't see what's happening in the scene. Mm-hmm. I would love to see what that looks like without that. There's like, you can use some kind of like mist or fog kind of thing just to give a bit of that atmosphere between you and the figures.
Yes.
Or just let me see the figures. Like, just do some more creative lighting where you don't need a giant scrim for that. Like, what's going on over there? Is that a hand passing over a clock? What? I want to be able to see it.
That's fair. To be fair, though, things that you can see are not scary. Well, that's not true necessarily, but something will always be scarier if you can't see it, and it will always be scarier in your head, and you don't get the release of seeing it.
Yes.
But I was going to say that the popping head skull things, those feel like an executive decision. Someone somewhere tweeted, why do people even go on the Haunted Mansion? It's not even that scary, when I don't think that's the point anymore. What's that?
I think it was one of those things where it's like, oh, we're updating 12 attractions. Look, we added something to Haunted Mansion.
Oh, you mean to make it look like they're doing something?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess
like every ride is gonna, like if they were to say every ride's gonna get an update, and then it's like we added a popping head. But they added like the staircase scene.
Even that feels like a committee designed upgrade. It's like, let's do what Spirit Halloween does and just set up a bunch of jump scare things. That's not to criticize.
Oh, where you step on the mat and then it
jumps out at you.
It,
yeah. Or sometimes they're just motion activated. But it just they look out of place on the one hand. Two, I can see the pole that holds them up really easily. Like guys couldn't have put like a longer sheet over it.
You could hear like a compression sound as they pop up.
They're bad and they need to be removed.
Can I say two things that I love?
Can I replace my last thing?
Sure.
Madame Leota. Not replace her, but make her so that we can see the stuff in the room floating around much better. Or put that at the center of the room so we can see it.
Rather than in the backdrop behind everything.
Exactly, because that's hard to see and it's less impressive. And I want to see these things float. And I want to spend more time in Madame Leota's room where we can hear more of the things. And I don't know if it's just because we've been to the one in Florida, which has been proven to be shorter.
No, it's because we listen to the soundtrack where you hear the whole thing. And then...
Was that... Okay.
And then when you go on the ride, you're only in that room for like 20, 30 seconds. Yeah. So you only get to hear like one of the verses.
That's fine.
Whereas if you listen to like the soundtrack version, you're essentially hearing the entire incantation.
I'm okay with...
And then the ghosts come out. And meanwhile, on the ride, it's just like, knock on something! Okay, the ghosts are here. And it's like, it feels like it's just like, oh, okay, we needed to do that one thing.
That's the other thing, is that the narration where he talks about, he says, perhaps Madame Leota can help us with this thing. She has quite a head for... what's the word? I can't remember. But the point is that narration is gone, and so we don't have that context. Now, the other question is, and I guess the ultimate question is this just us? Are we just a bunch of bitter old men, and everyone else is just here to have a good time, and Disney executives know that Joe Popcorn and his family don't care about the way the ride was or the narration. They're just
Yeah.
there so their kid can be in a dark room and they can sit down for a while.
There are two kinds of people who go on Mansion. One, people who in the stretching room are like my mom are on the phone going, "What? No, yeah, we're just about to go on a ride," and it's like, "Mom, the ride has started."
Yes.
The guy's talking. Shut up. Or
God.
there's the second kind of person who recites the Ghost Host narration and ruins it for everybody else.
I like to lip sync along, so that way, if anyone just happens to be looking at me, they'll see that I know the words, but they'll notice that I'm not saying it along with it.
Yeah.
However,
I
do you know
don't want to ruin anyone's fun, but shut up when we're in the we're in the stretching room.
They're ruining. We're allowed to do that because they're ruining our fun. We're there for the atmosphere and the good times. We're not here to listen to you prattle on about Brenda and how her divorce proceedings are going or whatever.
Let's end this with a tip. Go on Haunted Mansion at the end of the night during the fireworks because there's almost nobody in the line.
And anyone who is doing it there is also there to be there when there's the fewest number of people possible.
Yeah.
So you're going with other people who appreciate it.
Yes.
The perfect Haunted Mansion ride would be by yourself.
Yeah. I would love to be in that room by myself, but I doubt they would let you.
No, and I'm sure they wouldn't. And remember when we tried to stop to take photos? They were like, keep moving!
But that was weird because the year before, when we stopped to take photos, they're like, don't worry, you got time before the next stretching room lets in.
Well,
which was weird because one year they're like, sure, no, take your time.
To be fair, I think the time we did go, it was pretty busy. And when we did stop to take photos, there were a lot of people. And they needed to move people on. And to be fair, we're the ones being inconvenient, but the truth is we don't get to take photos at the Haunted Mansion very much.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Ridiculous reskin.
A ridiculous reskin.
I'm going to say Winchester.
Like the movie?
Yeah.
It's already based on the Winchester. It's already based on the Winchester Mansion, or at least that's one of the inspirations.
I just want to have Helen Mirren
show up.
I just want to hear the story of welcome to the Winchester house. This lady went crazy, but are the ghosts real? Yes. You go in the ride, and it's just Helen Mirren fighting off different ghosts
with a gun,
or running like each room features.
Get out
a
of my
ghost.
house, you ghosts!
Does she have a gun in the movie?
No, she's using a Winchester rifle.
What wasn't the whole point that...
The whole point was, yes, she went crazy because the Winchester rifle killed a bunch of people.
And then she's using it... Wait, you can't shoot a ghost with a gun?
Who cares? That's the Disney executive having the conversation. Who cares? We'll have a cool gun effect. But that doesn't make sense. One, because it's not a Disney property.
Who cares?
Well, I guess that's the point.
That's
but
the point. We can buy property.
We can do whatever we want.
Wait,
now,
was it a Fox movie?
Was it? I don't think so.
It could have been a Fox movie.
It might have been. I don't think it was. Okay, so I can do two, I guess. But my first one is a genuine thing that I would love to see. And that's a Sleepy Hollow overlay.
Oh,
for
I was
Halloween.
gonna get to that.
Yes. So, the ride goes on basically as normal until you get to the stretching room. And then the ghost host, he starts going through his narration, and then suddenly he's interrupted by some hideous laughter that we all know and love at this point, if you've seen the animated Headless Horseman one. And the ghost host goes, "Oh no, it looks like we have an unwanted guest," or something like that. And he's like, well...
Tiki Room under new management?
Kind of, yeah.
The show starts normally, but then something happens that interrupts it?
Yeah. And it would just be for this overlay. And then most of it goes on as normal from then on. You hear the Headless Horseman in the stretching room. You know how the ghost host, the audio goes around the room? Same with the Haunted Mansion. Or the Haunted Mansion. The Headless Horseman. You hear hoofbeats going around the room and things like that.
Yeah, you hear Christopher Walken go, Rah!
Different Headless Horseman. Cartoon Headless Horseman. The good Headless Horseman.
Headless body of
Anyways,
Agnew.
Then, as you go through the house, the various props are mostly the same, except every now and again we catch glimpses of the Headless Horseman around the corner.
Ooh,
spooky. Yeah. The guy who's playing the piano?
Yeah.
Maybe the window that leads outside, in the lightning flash, you see the silhouette of a man on a horse in the distance.
Oh.
Or something like that. And then, as you go through, we learn not only more about the mansion, but about the Headless Horseman. And then, obviously most of the things are the same. I feel like there's a joke in there with Madame Leota and the Headless Horseman, but I can't think of it, so someone else better than I am will have to do it. But then you replace the attic sequence with a sequence where the Headless Horseman is chasing you down. And you hear hoofbeats, and they're getting louder and louder and louder until you round the corner, and it's almost a hallway, and then strobe lights or something flash to make it look like the Headless Horseman is coming towards you, and then it gets really close, and then it's all dark for a second, and then you're back out, and the graveyard scene is the biggest change, where most things are the same, except the ghosts are singing the spook song from, what do you call it?
With the spook and the spook and the...
When the spooks have a midnight jamboree, they break it up with a fiendish glee. Ghosts are bad, but the one who's cursed is the Headless Horseman. He's the worst. But you'd have them singing that song instead, and then you have a big animatronic of the Headless Horseman on his horse, holding the pumpkin aloft, and laughing, and the horse rears and shouts, and he leans down towards you and stuff like that. And you'd make it very stylized. Because you remember in the cartoon, he's basically just a black silhouette with this big red cape behind him, and the pumpkin in his hand. That's what I picture. Something like the physical version of that. And then
that'd be so cool.
That would be super cool. And as you're turning around, he's just he's like the centerpiece of the graveyard, and the horse rears, and it'd be so spooky. But that's like that would be a legitimate overlay. And if I could describe it better, I would. But that's as good as I can do. And I don't know, it would just be cool, and it would be just a Halloween overlay. Because that's what it is about. Why not a Sleepy Hollow one? And Sleepy Hollow it's a property that I think I don't want to say a lot of people like, but it's also like a staple of American literature.
It's a pretty big Disney staple. I mean, we have the Headless Horseman coming down the street during Mickey's Not So Scary.
Why not have him be in the Haunted Mansion as well?
They don't even make a big deal out of it. That's the weird thing.
That he's there?
Just a horse comes down the street and people are like, where's the floats?
Well, a man riding a horse in an obviously fake headless costume is not that impressive. And so it's not like they can draw too much attention to it. You can't do that you can't do much with a man on a horse in a controlled environment. You can't have like the horse galloping at full speed down Main Street while the Headless Horseman laughs maniacally, swinging a sword or something.
Oh, that'd be even cooler.
That would be so cool, but they can't do that. That's my real reskin of the Haunted Mansion for Halloween.
Well, mine is Phantom of the Opera.
A Phantom of the Opera skin? It's called Phantom Manor. We have it. Plot twist.
Okay, well then let's move on. Tower of Terror. We've talked about Tower of Terror.
We've talked about Tower of Terror.
We were
before.
Stuck in the fifth dimension with Rob Plays.
That's right. Forced to watch the 1990s Forrest Whitaker.
He could still be in there for all we know.
He could be.
We're losing a lot of really good entertainment at the parks. Every day, streetmosphere things start disappearing or get cutbacks more and more. And the reason earlier was because, we need to save money for Star Wars. And then Star Wars happened, and we have what? Kylo Ren, some Stormtroopers, and V come out. And that's it. Oh, wait, I guess Rey and Chewbacca are there as well.
Who cares?
But anyways, we lose streetmosphere a little bit every time. And I always think about the citizens of Hollywood.
They're the ones who have experienced the most cutbacks.
And they make Sunset Boulevard so great. And I love the idea. Have you ever talked to like the people outside, like the cast members at Tower of Terror? Because they all have their own like little idea. Because they don't smile. It's like Haunted Mansion cast members. They don't smile.
One of the few places where the cast members are not only encouraged to, but are permitted to be miserable.
Yes, that whole area is like a little slice of like 1930s Hollywood
or 1950s
or 1950s, and Tower of Terror more so because it's like those bellhops are trapped in that time,
or so we think. Sometimes, depending on the cast member you talk to, they all have their own little idea of whether or not they are really here, but they're always mysterious about it. Yes.
So I would love to see not about the ride Tower of Terror, but I would love to see the Tower of Terror aesthetic leak out into the street a little bit. I'd like it like when night comes, I'd like it to be mysterious. I'm sure you can do an effect to make it look like the tower gets struck by lightning at a certain time every night.
I mean,
I'm sure you can make an effect of that.
They can do it. I'm sure there's an easy way to do it.
I meant using like practical like fireworks and shit. Like I'm sure there's a firework
you want them to harness
off.
the power of lightning.
No, I want them to shoot a firework into the sky with just the idea, just being able to make the sound of like rumbling. Like I'm sure there's a firework that can do that.
A lightless firework.
If you shoot it off, like maybe you can make it explode, and then anyways, I'm just trying to say they could make the effect that this storm is happening and the Tower of Terror is going to get struck, or something. I'd love to just see it be a bit spookier in general on the street, and the idea that they're kind of stuck in this time period or something. I mean, that's already kind of what's happening. I'm sure if you go, I've never gone up to a Streetmosphere and been like, it's 2019, right? Like,
the Streetmosphere characters turn into episodes of the Twilight Zone.
They'll have like their own little character, like familiar characters.
Yeah. Like we have Mr. Death or the people with the pig faces or something.
William Shatner.
Well, you can't. That's it. That is scary.
2 versions of William Shatner.
Even scarier. But I guess that wouldn't. I guess you couldn't have the pig face people because they're a fascist dictatorship, and that's a little too close to home for Disney.
What was that? There's a frog in the.
It's a ghost.
Executive. Oh my god! Yeah, it's a. Oh my god! There was a ghost.
A creaky floorboard means it's a ghost. You want to see it spill out more. You want to see the Twilight Zone bleed into the real zone. The real zone?
Yeah, that's what the real world's called. The real zone.
We'll call it the real zone. But
wait a minute.
Chalk Zone.
The Forbidden Zone Tower of Terror. Danny Elfman's there in a Satan costume. Jesus Christ!
That's exactly what
If you've
Walt
never seen
wanted.
Forbidden Zone, go check that weird movie out. No one's seen it. I'm the only person.
Cult classic Forbidden Zone. Well, you're not the only person, but it is a cult classic.
It's
more so than even a lot of other cult classics.
Yeah. So yeah, I would like to just see that atmosphere of Twilight Zone, or even just the spooky nature of that area, bleed out into the street a little bit more.
Do you know what would be cool?
No.
But they had like Streetmosphere characters who are in like black and white makeup. That would be neat. They'd come out and it's like they've come out from the TV show into the real world. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. Tower of Terror. How do you make it scarier? How do you make it
scarier?
Well, I mean, being dropped to your death is already scary. How do you make it Halloween-y?
Halloween. I mean, I'm pretty sure the movie took place during Halloween, right?
But come on, the made-for-TV movie that they filmed in 3 hours.
Yes.
Come on, that was kind of spooky, but
listen, that lady with no head. I mean, we're talking Headless Horseman already. In Tower of Terror, a gurney just wheels out in front of them, and it's the scariest shit. And then the body sits up and it has no head, and it scared the crap out of me. That was the legitimately scary part of that movie.
All right, fair enough.
Also,
but then that movie,
Steve Guttenberg's acting.
Oh
no, he's pretty good though. If I could ridiculously rehab it, Phantom of the Opera.
Again?
Yeah.
You're on the chandelier.
No. This is the Hotel Populaire. And it's the Phantom of the Hotel. And he wants his hotel run a certain way. And then at the end, he's like, they're singing to bring down the elevator. And then the elevator crowd. Like, the whole thing is like, the elevator. You get in it, and it's like, maybe we can frighten away the ghosts with a little bit of illumination, gentlemen. And then and then it rises up, and you watch like a little scene happen as you go up. And then at the end, the Phantom's like, he like appears on top of the thing. Oh, that'd be cool. You know what? Projection mapping something on the roof of the car so you look up and then the elevator drops as you're looking up. That would be horrifying in general.
Unless they don't want you to look up so you don't look at the ride system.
Yeah.
Because that could be a thing as well.
I think it's black anyways. Like, you can't see anything in that section anyways.
But if they projection map something there, you'll be able to see it. Anyways, that sounds...
terrible?
I don't want to say terrible.
I know.
But it's like, it doesn't really jive as the same.
Honestly, the Hotel Populaire idea sounds cool to me.
The Phantom of the Hotel just doesn't have the same ring as the Phantom of the Opera. And then why would he be obsessed with singing if he lives in a hotel?
Oh, yeah. I guess the whole point was that it was an opera house.
Yeah, that was kind of the point. The music is central to the plot line of that show.
Yeah. Fine. Love Never Dies, the ride.
Oh, God.
At the end, Meg Giron just guns you.
I was going to say, at the end, Meg Giron shoots you. But,
No one knows what we're talking about.
Because no one saw Love Never Dies.
I asked 5 people at work today, have you ever seen Phantom of the Opera? They're like, well, I don't know. What's it about?
Kids don't like musicals anymore. Oh my God. That ghost heard that and was like, I don't believe that for a split second.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
What about a D.B. Cooper
D.B. Cooper
ride?
has nothing to do with Halloween.
D.B. Cooper drop ride. It's mysterious. He fought Bigfoot.
There's a bunch of shirtless dudes. That's what would replace all the cast members would be buff shirtless dudes.
Feel like this guy, my friend here is going to take you into the ride. What friend? And then a bunch of them come.
A bunch of them come out. Hi, and they're all shirtless.
There's more scary Disney movies that haven't been explored. So my question is, when are they going to make a Halloween Town area
next week
in Disney World? They don't do like mazes and like there's no permanent sort of spooky area, which I guess you wouldn't normally do. Universal does transform some of their areas into themed areas.
Yes.
Canada's Wonderland does the same thing. They have these scare zones, which is just, if you're not in a maze, at least there's spooky actors in the park and characters that you can interact with and stuff. So yeah, why wouldn't you do like Halloween Town or Hocus Pocus or something like that? Like, why don't they bring that further into the... We did have a Hocus Pocus show.
Yes.
Which was actually relatively decent to look at.
Well, it's another one of the shows, because we talked about there's like several kinds of shows.
Yes.
It's one of the, look, it's this character show, and then the character comes out and does a thing.
They used to bring out all the villains and
just
be like, look at this guy. Whoa.
We're the Sanderson sisters. The gays love us. We should be drag characters, really. But...
They did it for the anniversary. And specifically so they could say, girls, it's been 25 years since we last were awoken or whatever. And
it's been 25 years since Hocus Pocus came out on DVD, and you can all buy Blu-rays after the show.
That sounds like the Nostalgia Critic review.
A little bit.
They're like, we'll be nostalgic.
Hocus Pocus, it's great. Halloween Town could be fun. I mean, I don't remember much about Halloween Town. I've seen almost all of them, which is kind of embarrassing for me to say, but I think they're okay. Like even Halloween Town High, which is okay, it's kind of like about, you know, accepting people for being different. I guess that's a generic message, but
yeah,
they're all...
There's usually some evil witch who's like, I want to turn everyone into stone, including you.
I think out of them, it's usually an evil wizard. We had, in the first one, there's that one guy with the rose who's a bad guy from the moment he steps onto set, because he wears leather gloves and hands the mom a rose and is like, remember when we used to be in love? And then the second one, I think it's his son, which you know immediately because he hands the main girl a rose and says some weird off-color thing at one point.
You just described the villains from Now You See Me and Now You See Me Too. It's Michael Caine, and then this bad guy in the second one is also
Michael
a
Caine?
British guy. It's Daniel Radcliffe, and it's Michael Caine's son
I knew it.
getting back at them for foiling Michael Caine in the first movie.
Of course.
Anyways, that's spoilers.
And then Halloween Town, there's some secret order that kills witches or something. They draw a giant dagger in front of the school, and then the witch conjures a rainstorm to wash it away for no reason other than... I don't know. Like,
what was that horrifying Disney movie we watched where the carousel ages or de-ages you?
Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Yeah! Back when PG meant shit your pants, please.
Absolutely. But yeah, Something Wicked This Way Comes is great. It's not just about Halloween. It's got that nice autumn feel to it, which I guess they don't have autumn in Florida. I mean, they don't have autumn here in Florida.
His name was Mr. Dark.
That's it, Mr. Dark. They didn't even bother. But, yes, he steals people's life essence by putting them
Bradbury.
Ray Bradbury, that was it. I couldn't remember. But yes, Ray Bradbury, he wrote that excellent story. and it's scary as hell. Disney could finally build a carousel that actually does steal your life essence.
Oh my god.
Well,
how do they digitize it for Mr. Chapek?
They don't. They use it to feed Mr. Chapek. He's like, I want to be a real boy. And they put people on the carousel to steal their life essence and channel it into Mr. Chapek. And then eventually he'll turn into a real person.
Oh yeah, because it's a real human heart
or
that they stole and put into a robot body. I forgot.
Or it'll be like the Vietnamese Cinderella story, where the evil magistrate has to collect 49 souls before he can turn human because he's secretly a demon. I'm sorry.
What? That was so much to take in.
Maybe not in this episode.
What does that have to do with Cinderella?
It's the Vietnamese Cinderella. We'll talk about the Vietnamese Cinderella when the podcast's over, or we'll make it a little bonus section. But it's a long story. It's very different, and it's the best version of Cinderella I've ever seen.
Honestly, looking up like horror-themed Disney movies, there really isn't that many.
No, and that's because
it's like, okay, so like the first result when you take a look is like Frankenweenie.
That's not even that scary of a movie.
Yeah,
it's a horror movie by all means, but
a lot of them are shorts, like The Haunted House or like Ichabod and Mr. Crane kind of thing.
Yes.
Now that we're done talking about Disney movies, let's go into what I'm excited for, which is how would you rehab or create your own entire spooky area based on anything or everything? Mm-hmm. I believe you really wanted to talk about Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow, again, I love this story. There's some wonderful atmosphere about the Sleepy Hollow story. Even Washington Irving's original story, I don't know if it's based on a legend he heard, or if he just wrote it one day. But I guess it would take him more than one day to write it. But he builds this wonderful atmosphere of this town. That sort of, it's a place where the veil between this world and the supernatural is sort of just a little bit thin, and there's almost a spell it holds on the world. And they would take part of Liberty Square, and they'd sort of convert it into Sleepy Hollow, or be like, well, look at all the residents from Sleepy Hollow who are coming to visit, and I did the voice of the mayor from Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost for that. They bring all the Sleepy Hollow residents around, and then at some point in the night you have them do ghost stories where they talk about, they don't just have to talk about the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman can be the story that caps it off at the end and then he shows up or something. But you have them all tell different ghost stories from around America and stuff like that. And then it'll create this lovely spooky atmosphere, and it's super cheap. You just gather a bunch of people into a room, sit them down, and then they listen to the ghost story. And if people don't like it, they can leave. But I think that would be great.
Just that intimacy of a small...
In the Liberty Tree Tavern. That would be a good place for that. You convert one of the areas into like a dinner theater area. Don't do that, Disney, because I'm going to do that here. I'm going to use my theater company, and we're going to do something like that.
That would be really cool.
That would be cool.
I'll help you along here, because I really don't like how much space Rivers of America takes up, and I would love to just expand Liberty Square out into that water area, like pave it and just put a Sleepy Hollow town, like build on that, because really Liberty Square is just that really tiny section before it leads out into Frontierland, and then whatever the transition to Fantasyland is. I mean, I guess technically, like Memento Mori and Haunted Mansion are still part of that Liberty Square area.
Yes,
but it sort of you lose it a little bit as you walk out.
There's a disconnect, because the rest of it is just like historical, and then we have spooky.
Yeah, and then in the other direction, Western.
Yes.
I would love to see a little like Edison Street kind of area, like they wanted to build, but just an offshoot of Liberty Square where it is. Spooky.
They don't even have to make it
hollow. Sleepy Hollow.
You don't even have to make it spooky all year round. You just build some nice sort of colonial era houses. I think that's when it takes place. But you build some nice houses like that, and then you just spooky them up for Halloween.
Miranda Richardson shows up and stabs herself.
Oh, the Tim Burton one?
Yeah, the Tim Burton one.
I completely forgot about that.
I would certainly do the same thing at the Magic Kingdom. I would have an offshoot to Haunted Mansion, where the Haunted Mansion sort of bleeds out into the area. Like, that's a spooky area. Mm-hmm. I would do, and it would work as a good transition to Fantasyland, the Black Forest.
Ooh.
I would love an area based on like the woods that are in Snow White. Just the woods where every spooky thing takes place.
Well, that's what I was going to
tales.
say. For those of you who don't know, the Black Woods is a literary device, which is the woods are... It's usually always the same woods. The Black Woods are all the same woods from the different stories, but it's where characters go when something scary is going to happen to them.
It's what Into the Woods basically was. The idea that all these characters went into the woods at the same time.
Yes, the difference is that Into the Woods use it as a metaphor for like the hardships of life and things like that.
I would make it a creepy area though, where you walk through one of those, that's sort of like the precipice of where the forest is, and it's just like, should I take that step in and everything? I would love it to be one of those areas, and a winding trail before you get to this completely forested area. And maybe there are some like little villages or a little
I would
village,
say houses, cottages.
Yeah, like a werewolf style village. Like when I think of the game Werewolf, or when we've like done it live, for example, that's like the village I picture. It's just like 3 or 4 houses, a blacksmithery, and a bar and everything.
Do you know what I'm going to guess? I'm going to guess that's from the Lon Chaney Wolfman movie.
Probably.
Where it's like a small superstitious town that's like, oh, the Wolfman.
It's like a Dr. Frankenstein kind of, like one of those tiny villages.
Yes.
Where it's just like everyone knows everyone because there's like 20 people there.
And
don't go deeper into the deep woods or whatever.
That's where the witch's cottage is or whatever. And and then you get there and I don't know.
And then there's like an indoor dark ride or something. This is why I wanted to do a spooky episode. Because I really, really want a Gravity Falls dark ride. I think Gravity Falls made the perfect mix of humor and horror.
Like because there's
actually stuff in Gravity Falls that is horrifying.
Oh yeah,
like the shape-shifting episode. Just most of the monsters in it are just like especially in their Summerween episode.
They're scary in the context of a children's television series. Like, you wouldn't expect it to go that dark. Like when Bill Cipher makes a screaming head appear, and it goes inside out, and then the muscles and the eyes melt away. That's frightening. But you go in, and the queue area, or not the queue area, but like the load area, you know how the pre-show area, basically, has the statue of Bill Cipher. And like in Mystic Manor, it comes to life, and Bill Cipher comes back and is like, "You're gonna go on a journey," or whatever.
Do you want me to walk you through the idea I had?
Yeah, you do it. Go
okay,
ahead.
So it starts off, and you're basically in Gravity Falls. Like, forget the whole forest, or maybe it could be the forest thing. The
Gravity
Mystery
Falls
Shack
has a forest around it. Yes,
the Mystery Shack is in the forest. So
yes.
Maybe the area that I want to build is just Gravity Falls. Like, you can have some of those jokey kind of shops where it's like a weird name, like From Dusk Till Dawn. Mm-hmm. You can have the references and stuff.
Yeah.
And then as you go in, so you wind through the forest, and then the Mystery Shack has a new attraction. And Stan has built a ride, and it's very poorly run. It's purposely crackety and not rickety. And so it starts off, and maybe Stan comes out as an animated character, or he's in a portrait or something, and he's like, "Hey, it's me. I want more money." So at the end of the ride, we collect money if you're still alive. So enjoy. Everything's spooky.
I want to make more money, which is why I've paired with Disney.
This theme park people, they gave me a spot to make more money. They said, well, we already do it, so you can too.
I went to the one place that has a soulless... I went to the one people who are more soulless than I am when it comes to doing cheap cash grabs. Disney!
I went to Bob Chapek and said, I want more money, and he said, me too.
Anyways,
and then he said, get out of my office. So I punched him in the head. I don't know. So you get on the ride, and yeah, it looks like, you know the vibe you got when you were on like the Simpsons ride, and there were people who were like, oh, go on a ride, and they sounded like Ben from the RPG. Yes. like it's like that. It's like everyone is working there, and they're all wearing dipper hats or whatever, like the pine tree hats. And then the ride starts, and it starts off, and it's like okay, come and look at this first thing. And I picture it like the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride vehicles, where it's like a jalopy or something, and it's like an old timey car.
Yes.
And it's just winding and going so fast around the track. Individual cars.
Yes.
Not like an Omnimover.
Yeah.
And he's like, look at this weird mermaid thing. Oh, look, it's a werewolf boy. And then Dipper's like, Colonel Stan, do I have to really do this? And it's like, shut up, Dipper. And then at some point, the car breaks off the track, because that's what every Disney ride does.
It could be a trackless vehicle that is on a fake track.
Yeah, and then like...
it breaks off.
And maybe you go into the forest, and then you encounter the Bill Cipher statue, and then...
It comes back to life.
Something terrible happens, like every Disney ride. He comes back to life, and then you go through like a maybe he unleashes weird Mageddon.
I was just gonna say, it doesn't matter if... It could just be like a small snippet of an area that turns into the weird Mageddon area.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you maybe go through like a evil portal at the end, but it'd be too soon to go through like a portal.
Yeah. You wouldn't go through a portal. He'd just use his powers to make things weird around you.
Yeah,
bring some trees to life or something.
You end up back at the Mystery Shack, and then just
yeah.
Dipper like steps on his face and kills him or something.
No. There would be some elaborate thing where they're looking for like a magic box to trap him in or something. The point is that it wouldn't be difficult to do.
The mailbox. Remember that episode? Remember the little short where they send things through a mailbox and it like goes to the future, like a weird dimension or whatever, and then somebody answers it back? They shove them in there, and then they're like, "Where did he go, Dipper? I don't know, but it's not here," or something like that.
That could work. The point is that would be the MacGuffin of the ride.
And Seuss just like pushes you back into the Mystery Shack, where you get off as if nothing happened.
Yes.
And then you go, and then there's a voice that's like, well, if you ever want to come back, I'm sure that won't happen again. Just one of those things where like,
yeah,
like DJ, like he is currently a DJ, but at the end of Star Tours, the original, where Rex is like, sorry everybody, it won't happen next time. I'm getting used to my programming. And then the next time his brain just gets reset, and he's like, it's my first flight. And it's like, oh, it's always his first flight, isn't it? It's like it's one of those.
It's like
gags.
that episode of The Twilight Zone where the guy, he keeps falling asleep and having the same dream that he's being executed. And then and then he wakes up and it's the same dream, but some people are moved around.
That was a good episode.
That's a great.
He has
episode.
To convince everybody.
He has to convince
that
everyone that they're dreams, and it turns out he's right.
And he almost gets it.
He almost
gets everyone to be convinced.
Well, he says. I think he says at the end, at some point in the episode, he says, "It doesn't matter how hard I try. The episode always, or not the episode, the dream always ends the same with me being executed. There's nothing I can do about it." But anyways,
that was a good episode.
It's a great episode.
But anyways, that's my Gravity Falls ride, and that's my whole Gravity Falls area. It would just be Gravity Falls because it fits that spooky atmosphere, but everything looks normal.
Yes. I think it would be
Tad Strange just walk around.
It would be an easy fit into the Disney world, and especially it has more modern scary sensibilities as well, which helps. It could even be like the Gravity Falls Hunt for Cryptids or something, and then you have a bunch of different creatures that show up.
We did talk about a dinosaur cryptid overlay. So yeah, or a Canada ride cryptid overlay. We should just start including cryptids into every rehab.
Listen, they're like superheroes. They make everything more interesting.
Journey into Imagination with SCP-1234.
Oh my god. SCP Containment Breach. That would actually be a good Halloween Horror Nights one.
I'm Dr. Nigel Channing.
Welcome.
There's been a breach.
Hello, I'm Dr. Nigel Channing, and welcome to SCP Secure, Contain, Protect. Here we house anomalous objects from all over the world and try to keep them under wraps. Here we have the self-regenerating lizard. Here we have the rip-off of the Weeping Angels.
Here we have a purple dragon with orange horns on his head.
Here we have a scary old man who can walk through walls and sends you to a private dimension when he touches you.
Here's you.
Gravity Falls. What a concept. What a concept. A cartoon that did reasonably well, that was well loved, and Disney just doesn't want to touch it.
Yeah. Hey, Alex Hirsch, email us.
He won't. So we're going to briefly talk about Universal Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes.
And Halloween Haunt.
Yes.
At Wonderland. Because they are effectively the same thing with different budgets.
Yes. Universal definitely puts a lot of time into... There's a whole team that cares a lot about the mazes they use, where they're placed, and the properties that they're using as well, and making sure it looks like it. Cause like I've seen the Killer Clowns maze, and I'm like, wow, this really does look like scene for scene like the movie, which is pretty crazy. It visually it looks good. It's just not scary.
Well, that's the sort of the catch of it, is that these things are well produced and you can make them as good looking as you want. Ultimately, they always are the same thing, which is someone pops out from behind a thing and jump scares you.
And there's a sound effect.
And there's a sound effect. And I will say I'm impressed with the Halloween Horror Nights sound syncing, because they have a lot of like creature effects and sound that needs to be synced up with actors' motions. I don't know how they do it. I'm sure it's great. And I'm sure it's probably like some secret trigger in the costumes or something like that. It's all very impressive. And it does just kind of... I think every single maze has someone behind a curtain who opens the curtain very suddenly and scares you.
Yeah.
Several times in one ride sometimes.
That's really all you could do.
And that's the problem. I mean, there was that... I did start watching a documentary that was called, like, House Haunters or something like that.
Oh, yeah, but they, like, shove people's faces into, like, piles of blood. Like, these are the kinds... And
they lock them in a trunk.
Pull people into, like, away from their friends, like,
yes,
unwillingly.
Those are extreme haunted houses, which are a little different.
Do that.
You can't do that.
With, like, Universal or Canada's Wonderland.
And in fact, I don't think you should do those things in general. I don't know. There's something uncomfortable about that, where people are become so scared that what was I?
They like faint and stuff, or punch people in the face,
or they succumb to it. Like, that's not healthy. That's not healthy to do as a species. I know it's all for like, oh, you get scared and it's fun afterwards because haha, it's all pretend. But like, I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that to yourself.
I often think like I don't get horribly scared by the ones at Wonderland.
Sure.
I'm more scared at the anticipation that someone is going to jump scare me more than the jump scare itself. But
I think at a certain point, you sort of mellow out to it, and you're like, jump scares are going to happen. I'm like, maybe I would like one of those haunted houses where they can touch you and like they can like push you over or some shit like that. But I'm sure they'll have something where like walk you into a room and then like dump like a box of spiders on you, and then I'd shit myself and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? No. Like, well,
I'm sure they do that in these kind of haunted places. Like, they'll just be like, oh yeah, real snakes, toss. Like,
there's no way. Okay, first of all, animal cruelty. Like, like, you can't throw snakes around. This isn't the Mummy 2.
This isn't the 60s. You can't throw snakes at people.
That would be frightening for me, though, where they're like, all right, we're putting you in a room and we're gonna have the lights out, and then the lights come up and I'm surrounded by king cobras. I'd shit my fucking pants.
Yeah. Halloween Haunt at Canada's Wonderland. It used to be called Fear Fest when it was Paramount Canada's Wonderland, and it had this sort of, it had almost like a Hollywood Studios vibe. The idea was that they were filming these movies and things went wrong on the set, and you were walking through the sets.
That's neat.
And they actually linked up a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a house, they had a manor, and it was called the Van Tassels.
Oh, from Sleepy Hollow.
Yes. The Fear Fest theme for that side of the park was Sleepy Hollow.
Nice.
The idea was that you went through their manor, then you went through their shed, which was Bloodshed, which they still have.
Yep.
And then the last remaining people, like Mrs. Van Randa Richardson, got chased into the cornfield. And that's what Cornstalkers was.
I was about to say.
Each one of those mazes sort of led into each other, which was the cool thing about Fear Fest. They even had like one where they were like, we were filming a zombie movie, but then it turned out everyone was real zombies or whatever. And they had they actually like flipped over like broken cars and stuff and had them on fire. It was so cool.
We went. We don't go every year because a lot of them repeat. They're very good at taking what is basically a generic thing, and that's the other difference between Universal Horror Nights and Canada's Wonderland Haunt, is that Canada's Wonderland Haunt doesn't have any IPs attached to it. They're all generic things like zombies or spooky house or scary cornfield, the classic scary cornfield, which is probably done in rural towns all over America and what do you call it? Canada. My brain forgot my own country's name. For simple, generic, spooky things, Haunt is quite effective. And Halloween Horror Nights obviously does that as well. They have a bunch of their IP stuff, like Stranger Things and Killer Clowns and Ghostbusters, which is quite exciting, really. It's nice to see the boys back again. They also have a few that are just like the Yeti one. The problem is, especially with Canada's Wonderland, is that all of them have such different levels of quality.
Yeah.
Where Universal, at least they can maintain at least somewhat of a consistent quality because they just have more money and they have a bigger budget design or something like that. The Halloween Haunt ones, and I don't know why I'm comparing them because one of them's like a multi-million-dollar one and the other one's probably like a $1-million one. But we have that Haunted Manor one with some cool book floating effects and some Pepper's Ghosts and good atmosphere. But then you get something like Club Blood, where they play Darude by Sandstorm on repeat and just fill the room full of fog and laser lights and have some people kind of dressed as vampires walking around. And I think that's one of the ones where it's more like, this is sexy scary.
The weird thing is, it has such a good story. That maze, the concept where it's like, oh yeah, we invite regular human beings into our dance club and then we take them to the VIP room, but that's where we actually drain their blood and kill them. Like
Blade.
That's the theming, but it's just like, the problem is it's just like a modern dance club. It's not very good to look at. Versus Cornstalkers, where you actually have like, you know how like the Ant-Man and the Wasp like laser blasting ride, it's like there's such high fidelity on everything, like it looks like such high quality, but then you'll go on like Buzz Lightyear and all of a sudden it's all like cardboard cutouts. That's like the difference. Like you have just a boring like modern building, or you have like an organic cornfield or something.
To be fair though, that's not exactly a new concept. Farmers have been making cornfields into scary mazes for decades, probably. While fun, and I think that's the ultimate point here, is that these haunted houses and haunted walkthrough things are just kind of fun. They're not really... I mean, they can be pretty scary.
I've worked that side of Haunt where I've been scaring people, and there are people who legit just get really scared from a thing popping out and screaming at you. Or going, bah, or banging on something.
Exactly. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's not, like, incredible, but it's pretty good. Like Halloween, and I think that's the important thing we want to or the note we want to end on, is Halloween is a lot of fun. It's about dressing up and indulging in the spookier things in life. And ultimately, that needs to be, I shouldn't say needs to be celebrated, but is sort of underrepresented in a lot of ways. I think, especially with Disney, they tend to shy away from the spooky stuff for Halloween, which is where the real meat of the
not so scary Halloween party.
That's what I'm saying. They're too ironically afraid to do anything spooky and scary. And so, yeah, of course, it's for their image, because that's all Disney is. It's an image.
A JPEG.
A JPEG? Halloween's fun. These haunted houses are fun. And hopefully this podcast has been fun.
Well, before we finish up, we did go to Twitter and we said, what would you do if you had infinite time and money to rehab things at Walt Disney World?
To be more Halloween-y or just in general?
To be more Halloween-y.
Okay.
Courtney Brush, I'm going to butcher that. She says Grand Fiesta, but not Halloween, Day of the Dead. They could do a Coco crossover and Donald gets lost in the City of the Dead.
That would be really fun, and we could do that at Epcot. You go to the Mine Pavilion and you have that Journey to Xibalba. No, we can't do that.
What is it?
Xibalba is it loosely or the best translation we can come up with is the place of fear, and the Mayans believed in Xibalba, where you would have to go through various trials in the form of rooms to meet the 7 death gods, and the only people who ever completed it and came back were Xiblanca and his twin brother, whose name I forget. I think it might have been Hunapapu. But anyways, Xibalba is a staple of Mayan culture, and a lot of people kind of know it. The 7 death gods are pretty scary. The rooms are scary. You have the Room of Cold, the Room of Heat, the Room of Knives,
The Room, starring Tommy Wiseau.
the Room of Jaguars, the Room of Bats.
See, this sounds like a scary haunted house to
That's
me.
what I'm saying. It's a perfect.
As much as I think bats are adorable, I would not want to be in a room full of them.
Well, it's also not just bats. It's Camazotz, the giant bat god of the Mayan underworld, who takes Xiblanca's brother's head off, swooping down, and then he has to distract them and get the head back and put it back on his brother because they have magical powers and they can get away with things. Anyways,
yeah, I like Day of the Dead idea. I mean, that being an overlay specifically for Halloween, or that you could do it for like.
All right, let's make something clear. Day of the Dead happens on the same day as Halloween.
Yes.
They are very different.
Yes.
I don't want people to be like, "Oh, they're the same. It's Halloween. It's their version of it." No, it's not.
Skeletons.
It's not their. It's
different.
not. I want to be clear. It's not their version of Halloween. It is its own distinct festival, and it's also a pretty religious and serious festival to a certain extent. I don't know exactly. I'm not that in touch with Mexican culture, but I know enough to know that it's not like a big party that they have like Halloween is.
Yeah,
it's more respectful and traditional as opposed to I don't know, corporate, and I don't know how to call Halloween. I guess that's the other thing. Halloween feels less corporate because it's less profitable, but anyways,
Trevor Sheffield says, for talking areas, Pixar Pier would be the big get. Well, it'd be easier to just go with a villain's takeover angle. It'd be more interesting to see how the arguably darker and more tongue-in-cheek side of Disney would do Halloween. I like the idea of that because Pixar Pier has this sort of like carnival-ish kind of vibe. Like
something
an
wicked this
pier.
way comes.
Yeah. That's
where
Jesse's Critter Carousel
the life-sucking carousel
sucks your soul out.
I mean, it already does that.
It's definitely like a prime idea for like a spooky pier kind of theme, especially with just like, you have all the games and stuff. Toy Story Mania is there, and you can do that Halloween-themed overlay.
I feel like, though, if like the Disney executives sat down to do it, they'd be like, something wicked this way comes. No one watches that movie. They only torrent it. And they'd be like, let's just do scary clowns. Everyone's scared. Spooky clowns scare me! But anyways, go on.
Jada Johnston says, well, since we're already getting Christmas in Pandora this year, we might as well get Halloween, right? Halloween in Pandora. Would be really cool.
I mean, it could be.
I don't know enough about Avatar.
Okay. Here's what you could do. You could be like, we humans, the Na'vi have shared a lot of customs with us. We decided to share something with them, which is Halloween.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And the Na'vi make their own masks and such for Halloween, and they share and prosper.
Instead of it being like, this is how we celebrate Halloween, the Na'vi celebrate click-tack them back or whatever, and it's like the equivalent of Halloween.
Yeah, no.
It's like we introduced it to that. Yeah, I like that idea.
Try not to do it in like a colonialism way where it's like we forced them to do it. No, we're like we introduced it to them and they're here to have fun with us.
We gave them we showed them what the internet was and they looked up Halloween. I like that.
We gave the Na'vi the internet and their society collapsed.
Anyways,
Jacko. Sorry, we didn't get into any like detail as to what that would be.
Oh yeah, well
you'd go around. You'd get glow-in-the-dark candy.
Surely
there's like edible candies or edible glow-in-the-dark. Yeah, like I know you're not supposed to eat phosphorus.
I think if you shine like a black light on it while you're there,
oh, there you go.
It would
you make it blacklight candies.
Yeah,
not necessarily.
And then you sell a blacklight so you can make it light up at home.
That's right.
And then you make money. I think
you
Na'vi
sell
River
sporks
Journey
that are specifically pumpkin shaped or Na'vi Halloween.
That's Galaxy's Edge, but we'll get there. Were there sporks? No, there weren't.
No, but that's the new joke is that people steal sporks and then sell them online to
River Journey would have more monsters. Like we already have some creatures, but they're not being spooky.
Oh, what if instead of monsters, it's the Na'vi pretending to be monsters?
They just jump out and go ooga booga.
No, they're in costumes, and we see them like as dark shapes in the back, and we're like, oh, what the fuck are those? We've never seen those before. But it turns out it's just the Na'vi dressing up and enjoying Halloween.
The Na'vi made a spooky river journey for you.
Trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat. That would get annoying so fast.
Candy, pumpkin, trick or treat,
trick or treat. Perfect.
That's gonna get stuck in my head now. Yeah, and then Flight of Passage. I would just do it like, you know how they did Guardians and then they turned it into Monsters After Dark, where it's just like a completely different storyline.
Yeah.
I would do it with that. It's like the Na'vi want to take you on a nighttime flight.
Yeah. A nighttime flight.
That would be so cool.
The Na'vi are so proud of how they've adapted our festival of Halloween that they want to show it to you, but the only way you can get the grand scope of it is if you're on the back of a Banshee.
Yeah.
And so you do that. And then maybe like a Banshee flies in front of the moon or something. That'd be great. I guess there are multiple moons on Pandora. I don't remember.
E.T.?
Sure. Well, more like a big bat shape or something.
I just pictured it being like a more intense version. Like, you know how there's like Mission Space Green and then Mission Space Orange? Like daytime Flight of Passage, and then you have like the orange version of Flight of Passage, which is like the more intense one.
They don't strap you into the seat. You just have to hold on as best you can.
Okay, Jacko B Graphics says Toy Story of Terrorland, because remember that short with the lizard monster?
Oh yeah,
I guess it's a regular lizard.
It's just a regular lizard.
But yeah, Toy Story horror thing. That would fit with Toy Story Mania. It would be just Toy Story of Terror, and it would be like a spooky ride with 3D pop out stuff.
And I guess there are like Halloween toys. I guess.
Yeah, they find Andy. I got it. Are you ready? We have to think like
Andy's putting razor blades
terrible executives.
Oh, you're right.
Andy bought a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Andy
bought a haunted house toy.
Haunted.
And he put Woody and Jesse in, and they have to find their way out. And for some reason, it's a fully functioning haunted house.
Perfect. We figured it out. I was getting too creative in my head. I thought, what if I know. It's too expensive to be creative. But what if Ken and Barbie, they buy like a Malibu Barbie home or something, and then it's haunted?
Oh, they set up the haunted house. This would just be like a movie.
No. It's just like that's just like the strong contrast. I was like, we bought this beautiful home, and then it turns out to be haunted. The toys in it may have been destroyed before. We see Sid's ghost. Sid's not dead. I forgot he didn't die.
Jedwa says, have the villains take over a Magic Kingdom like Epic Mickey or something. I would just have Epic Mickey. I would just make it a themed thing. They like,
all right,
this whole year's Hocus Pocus. I would just make it this whole year's Epic Mickey. You have the Ink Blot. You have the Mad Doctor. You show you include stuff from like the Haunted House bit or the Lonesome Ghosts bit. There's so much the spooky, scary skeleton. Although I don't think that was actually... No.
That wasn't the song, no. The skeleton dance is what you're thinking of, yes.
You have the skeleton dance. Yeah.
You could have decaying animatronics. Oh, that would be frightening.
Yeah, that's
decaying
what
animatronics
it's like in Epic
at
Mickey.
You?
God, like, the original concept art? It's amazing. And
but they already have... Five Nights at Freddy's already exists, and it's only a matter of time before Universal buys them up and makes a maze out of them.
How have they not already done that?
I think probably the owner of Five Nights at Freddy's, they might have reached out to him and been like, we want your property. And then he read the contract like a smart man and realized that they want to take his intellectual property away from him and not just like expand it. So he decided to stick with the indie circles. We're just speculating. We're not saying that Universal is a soulless corporation that will pry your artistic endeavors away from you and turn them into cheap marketable products, and we're not saying Disney does that either. We're just talking about it.
Yeah. Jedwa continues saying, I would love to see something Halloween done at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and hey, that's where you have your cryptid thing replace the dinosaur ride for a little bit of time. We already do that at
Primeval Whirl entirely.
Primeval Whirl's already out to pasture.
You're not wrong. Sorry.
There's a prime area
to
develop like spooky themed stuff. I mean, they were already going to get like Beastly Kingdom. And I guess we have Pandora. But you can have that a spooky dragon ride.
I'm going to go back to Primeval Whirl.
Okay.
Because you said that's already gone out to pasture, and I said, you're not wrong. That's not true. You might be wrong, but it's unlikely, but we can't announce anything, because otherwise people are going to come after us and be like...
we don't really know.
We don't really know. We just know it's gone into seasonal operation.
And every time anything else goes into seasonal operation, it never comes back. Did you know Stitch is still in seasonal operation? And it's been like
the Stitch
2.5
animatronic
years.
comes lurching at you. Buzzy. Buzzy, he's back.
The Disney graveyard, and it would just be a omnimover through things that are long past.
I thought it was...
It's just...
I thought it's everyone who Disney's killed to keep quiet.
It's Elizabeth Shue, and she's covered in blood, and she's like, help me! She was the character in,
Do we have any
Body Wars?
What would you like to see made into... Like, what property or what sort of maze would you like to see made into a Halloween haunt style maze or a Halloween horror night style maze?
Are we talking like anything or Disney?
And Disney, anything that could be converted into a haunted house, because we're specifically talking about the walk-through haunted houses. That's kind of the theming I want to go for.
You know me, I love the cheesy horror.
Yes.
I have two. I have a very realistic one, and then I have a cheesy answer.
Okay,
what do you want? Which one do you want first?
Doesn't matter.
Let's start with the realistic one, The Thing.
The Thing would be good. I think that might have already happened, but lots of great visuals in that. They'd probably take more inspiration from the remake or the pre-make. The original one.
It's just The Thing has so many different horrifying visuals.
Yes.
Like, it's not just one thing.
Yes.
I mean, it is the thing.
It's the thing.
But it's multiple things.
Yes. You can have... There's a lot of artistic liberty you can take with the visuals of it.
Yeah. To that end, I would also say The Blob would make a really cool maze.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Just because you can have, like... You can do a lot of, like, goo effects and shit.
Yes.
Practical. Some of them could be like video screen
Someone's
things.
Halfway in it and they're screaming and flailing.
And then at the end, you just like spray, you know those like foam runs where they just spray like those foam fest things where they just spray foam at people? At the end of the maze, you just blast that at people as if they died.
It's dark.
It's dark,
make it dark,
and
and then you blast them with foam, and it's
a
like,
little bit of water and foam, and then they come out like with fucking like foam on them, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, they won't be like, what the f***? When they feel the foam hit them, they'll be like, wet in the sun, being absorbed by the flow.
That would scare the crap out of me and anybody else. If you just suddenly did a temperature change. They have a Saw maze at another theme park, and they actually, like, they blast people with heat, and they make it, like, ridiculously cold. Like, you basically walk through a refrigerator at one point. And those mazes that play with your senses, like, you can't touch people. But there's also not mazes where they spray water at you.
Yeah.
Water sprayed at you is the scariest part of a 4D movie, because you're not expecting to actually feel something touch you. Or, like, there's been 4D movies. The Tingler, or whatever the heck that movie was called.
Oh, yeah, The Tingler, starring Vincent Price by William Castle. He always had...
Vibrating seats.
Yeah.
Or, like, there's been some 4D movies where they, like, shoot little, like, rubber wires out from the bottom of your seat
to make it feel like
that is so scary.
Yeah, sensory. Well,
and if you did that in like a blob maze where you're not expecting like to get hit by a blob or something, that would be so scary. My ridiculous one is the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill.
That would be ridiculous.
Because it's just...
You can even do all the old things that William Castle did.
Yeah. Just like, you see a woman clearly standing there, and then she just goes...
And she glides away, even though she turns out to be a regular lady later.
Yeah. Anyways,
she's gliding.
What are yours?
A skeleton can swing down from the ceiling, get stuck halfway through, and just hang there for the rest of the maze. So, these mazes that I would love to see will be unsurprising to anyone who knows me that well. I would definitely want to have a reanimator maze. Because, one, you get that nice stage lighting. I should be clear. I'm talking about H.P. Lovecraft's Reanimator, or Herbert West Reanimator, directed by Stuart Gordon, who has my favorite Disney story ever. He wrote the screenplay for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh my god, you're right, I forgot.
Yeah. And he was supposed to direct it too. But then he got into a meeting with Disney executives. And it was so stressful and unpleasant that he started bleeding from his nose because he wanted to do all these creative, fun things, and the Disney executives were just trying to make it the most marketable product possible, and it hurt him so creatively that he began to bleed. And that's my favorite thing, because that typifies like how I feel about Disney. Like if I had to do something with Disney, I'd probably end up like that too. But anyways, you can cut that out if you want to. But it's just
no, that's amazing. Like that needs to stay in the show because you've told me that, and I think I might have heard it as well, like in an interview. But that's amazing. That's like the second time like that's happened. I've read about that. I think Guillermo del Toro wanted to make a Mr. Toad or a Wind in the Willows movie, and then they said, Disney executives were like, can you make him have a skateboard and say cool, rad things?
And Guillermo del
Toro got up and said, thank you, and left. And that was it. And
he knew.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And when you have the capacity to say no to Disney, I respect you. And Stuart Gordon wasn't even that big at that time. He's not even big now. He was just some guy. He was a theater director who did some pretty edgy stuff. But he was just a guy, and he said no to Disney. He could have used that money, and he said no. He held to his artistic integrity, and I respect him for that. But anyways, Reanimator maze would be great. You have all this frightening visuals from Reanimator. You can have a scene where it would be actors in the same costume as Herbert West fighting with a cat. You could even have like the cat. It would be a little animatronic or even puppet, and it's laying on the tray, and it's like, and then it meows at guests and such, and it's kind of frightening. You have, of course, the Dean who comes back to life. You have all the zombies at the end of the movie. I don't even call them zombies. Oh, that's right, the severed head. But you could still have that visual of a headless man holding his own head. You could even use the same effect they use in the movie, where it's masterfully done, where he's holding his head and his body's 5 feet wide. But anyways, the other thing that I think doesn't get enough traction anywhere would be a Candyman one.
Oh yeah,
because there's not a lot of different visuals in Candyman, but you can have the spooky apartment building, the spooky government housing, basically. And which is scary enough because colonialism and racism and the oppression of an entire demographic of people. The implication of that is scary enough. But then you can have actors in the Candyman costume, and then the big reveal at the end is the bees on the chest, which I feel like could be a great effect if done right.
Projection mapping?
Projection mapping. What you do is you have either an actor or maybe an animatronic, and you have him open it up where the bees are, and then the bees spread around the room, lights go out, and you just hear buzzing everywhere, and maybe feel some things rub against you, like strings or something. And I would love to have a Candyman maze, just because I think that's scary, and Candyman doesn't get enough love. And of course, yeah, I could talk, I'm sure it's been done. I could say things like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, but I'm pretty sure those have been done. I'm pretty sure somewhere, someone, maybe even Universal, has done haunted houses in the style of those movies. But that's my 2 cents. I'm sure I could name other horror movies that I'd love to see made into a maze. Demon Cop. No. No. Cameron Mitchell shows up at the beginning. He gives you the introduction. He's the pre-show. And then halfway through the ride, the tone of the ride changes. Birdemic the ride.
Oh my god.
So anyways.
Thank you so much for listening to this spooktacular episode of Ride Rehab.
We were delighted to have you. We're in the Disney executive offices. That doesn't work either.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here too. That ghost is getting louder.
Is that the ghost of Vincent Price? Is that who it's been this whole time?
He's possessed you and he's
I want to be in these movies.
Okay, Vincent, jeez.
I was a good actor and no one appreciates me anymore. I'm only ever known from Thriller.
Be sure to follow us at Ride Rehab on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. Not Tumblr. I think we have a Tumblr. Be sure to follow us Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and so on. Be sure to go to WDWNT.com, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news. Be sure to check out the other shows like Park Center and WDW News Tonight. And most of all, be sure to send us your ideas at riderehab@wdwnt.com. And now, we're going to finish off the night with a spooky story. Are you ready?
Oh, I was going to say unspookulous. For Ride Rehab, I'm Thomas Cthulhu is coming. Kiernan.
And I'm Tyler. Man, that's what a ghost sounds like. Thanks for listening.